You are always so composed, always have been. You handle crises at work with ease and remain calm at family meals. But now, someone asks a simple question. What were you like as a child? Something seems to lock behind your ribs. It is less pain and more like a door in your chest slamming shut. Even before you've had a chance to close it, your smile remains. But your breathing has become rapid, unnoticed by anyone at the table. But your body has just told you something you're unwilling to say aloud. This tension didn't begin last year. It began that night. You stood on a small stool, reaching for the stove, because no one wanted to feed your younger brother. You were 9, maybe 8. The years between 7 and 17 felt like a long, suffocating corridor. A corridor you mechanically walked down. That is its true price. You are now sitting at the table. Someone hands you a plate of food and asks if you want more. Your chest tightens. Not because you're not hungry. You are. It is because someone noticed your need and you hadn't addressed it first, which makes you feel almost threatened. You reach for the plate, then pull your hand back. That is the radar you've had since childhood. It can detect your father's footsteps on the stairs or catch a change in your mother's breathing before she even starts crying. It is never turned off. It is just found new targets. Now, it scans colleagues, partners, strangers at the cashier. You walk into a room, and within seconds, you can tell who is down, who needs what, who might cause trouble. You do it even before you take off your coat, even before you realize you're hungry. And that is the most painful part. The things most people do without thinking, like asking for a day off or laughing out loud. On Sunday afternoon, you sit quietly, doing nothing. You feel it is reckless, even dangerous, because, deep down, stillness equals negligence. Stillness means something is about to collapse, and nobody notices. You didn't learn this from books. You learned it when you were 9, standing in an excessively quiet kitchen, always alert, looking for the next thing to deal with. And your body still believes you're standing in that kitchen. So when was the last time someone genuinely took care of you and you actually let them? You know that strange discomfort when someone just shows up for you. No strings, no crisis, no reason. And instead of feeling grateful, your chest tightens. You span their face for the catch. You wait. Because steady love has never once arrived in your life, without a bill stapled to the back of it. That is not a flaw. That is recognition software, doing exactly what it was trained to do. Think about who you end up choosing. You gravitate toward the ones who keep one foot out the door, the ones whose affection you have to earn on a weekly rotation. Not because you enjoy pain, because distance feels like the shape of love you grew up inside. The cold side of the bed was your normal. Real warmth registers as a glitch in the system. And then there is the role you play in every room, the fixer, the calm one, the person everyone calls when things fall apart. Because somehow, you always know what to do. Nobody asks how you learned that skill so young. Nobody wonders why an 8-year-old acted like a paramedic. They just keep calling. Here is what I need you to hear. You're not broken for flinching when someone hands you rest. You're not difficult because intimacy makes your skin crawl. You're running a survival program written before you had any say in the code. And the fact that you're here, recognizing yourself in these words, tells me something. You already sense the program and the person are not the same thing. That is the mechanism, a child's brain, watching the adults around them fail to create stability and deciding the only solution is to become the stability. You weren't born anxious. You were trained into hypervigilance by an environment that punished letting your guard down, the overthinking, the scenarios, the inability to make a simple decision without running a full risk assessment. That is not a character flaw. That is a survival protocol that is still running decades later, long after the original threat disappeared. And here is where it gets darker. That exhaustion you carry, the kind that sleep never touches, that is not burnout from working too hard last week. That is a nervous system that has been in threat detection mode Since second grade, your body literally never learned what safety feels like. Because in your formative years, relaxation meant things fell apart. Rest became dangerous. So now, even when you're lying in bed, some part of you is still standing guard. The cruelest part, society looks at what you became and calls it success. You're productive, independent, low maintenance, efficient. You get things done. Corporate culture loves people like you. And that voice that keeps saying more, better, faster, prove yourself. That is not ambition. That is the echo of a moment. When your worth got fused with your usefulness. When being valuable became the same thing as being safe. So now you see the wiring. The question is what you do with it. It starts with grief. You're not grieving a person. You're grieving a version of yourself who never got to exist. The one who spilled something and was met with laughter instead of panic. Who needed help and actually received it without earning it first. Name the specific moments. The birthday. Nobody asked what you wanted because you were busy making sure everyone else was fine. The night you fell asleep, waiting for someone who never came to check. That tightness you feel in your throat when someone is unexpectedly kind. That is the grief trying to surface. Let it. Once you've named what was taken, start catching the reflex that replaced it. You walk into a room and your nervous system scans for tension before anyone speaks. Who is upset? Who needs managing? That radar kept you alive at 8. You're not 8 anymore. So the next time you feel the pull toward fixing someone else's discomfort, pause. Ask one question. Is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, put it down. Your hands might shake. That is your wiring encountering a boundary for the first time in its life. Then comes the hardest part. Letting yourself be terrible at receiving. Someone offers help, and every cell screams, refuse. Handle it. Prove. You need nothing. That reflex is old code. Override it. Say yes, even when it feels like swallowing glass. You're allowed to be a complete beginner at being cared for, even at 30, even at 50, because nobody ever put that skill on your curriculum. None of this feels natural at first. It feels like betrayal, like you're dismantling the one thing that made you valuable to the people around you. That friction is exactly how you know the boundary is real. Picture yourself 5 years from now, still scanning every room you walk into, still volunteering to fix what nobody asked you to fix, still confusing exhaustion with purpose. That future version of you is not ungrateful. They're just tired of performing a role that was never theirs to audition for. Here is what nobody told. That 8-year-old running the household, being needed and being valued are two completely different currencies. One drains your account, the other fills it, and you've been operating on the wrong one for decades, measuring your worth by how smoothly everyone else's life runs, while yours collects dust in the corner. So the real question is not whether you deserve rest. You already know the answer, even if your body tenses up the second you try to sit still. The real question is whether you can tolerate the discomfort of receiving something you didn't earn first, a meal someone else cooked, a problem someone else solved, silence that is not your job to fill. You're allowed to be clumsy at this. 30, 40, 50 years old, and still learning how to let another person carry something. That is not failure. That is a first lesson you were never given. That kid who held it all together did something remarkable, but they're not in charge anymore. You are. So, here is what I want you to sit with tonight. If you stripped away every responsibility you carry for other people, every role you perform out of habit, what is actually left? Does that version of you feel like a stranger